Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. My name is Gayle. I am a recovered Al-Anon and will be leading this meeting. We want to welcome everyone to our Al-Anon Big Book Recovery meeting. This is a step speaker meeting that meets every Wednesday night at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will study the 12 steps by using the precise instructions out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous as they relate to us Al-Anons. Let us get our meeting started. This is an original AA preamble written by the AA Grapevine describing the fellowship in 1940. We study the preamble with an open mind and open heart to consider how it applies to Al-Anon. This helps us to stay focused on the message of recovery, the pioneers intended while observing the traditions in action. Through the actions taken based on the instructions of the basic text, we comprehend what the pioneers meant when they described the membership of AA, which is that they worked a program of recovery and they no longer drink. In our case, we no longer obsessed over the alcoholic. Through continuous action and study of these principles, the understanding of the value of the original preamble reveals itself. We ask for your humble consideration of our sincere admiration of the pioneers of Alcoholics Anonymous. The simple hope is that we of Al-Anon will grow into the simple clarity and unity that birthed the original 12-step fellowship, because without them, after all, none of us would be here. Okay, the original AA preamble. We are gathered here because we are faced with the fact that we are powerless over alcohol and unable to do anything about it without the help of a power greater than ourselves. We feel that each person's religious views, if any, are his own affair. The simple purpose of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is to show what may be done to enlist the aid of a power greater than ourselves, regardless of what our individual conception of that power may be. In order to form a habit of depending upon and referring all we do to that power, we must first apply ourselves with some diligence. By often repeating these acts, they become habitual, and the help rendered becomes natural to us. We have come to know that as alcoholics, we suffer from a serious disease for which medicine has no cure. Our condition may be the result of an allergy, which makes us different from other people. It has never been permanently cured by any treatment which we are familiar. The only relief we have to offer is absolute abstinence, the second meaning of AA. There are no dues or fees. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. Each member squares his debt by helping others to recover. An Alcoholics Anonymous member is an alcoholic who, through the application of and adherence to the AA program, has forsworn the use of any and all alcoholic beverages in any form. The moment he takes so much as a drop of beer, wine, spirits, or any other liquid containing alcohol, he automatically loses all status as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. AA is not interested in sobering up drunks who are not sincere in their desire to stay sober for all time. Not being reformers, we offer our experience only to those who want it. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and on which we can join in harmonious action. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed the program. Those who do not recover are people who will not or simply cannot give themselves to the simple program. Now, you may like our program or you may not, but the simple fact remains that it works, and we believe is our only chance to recover. There is a vast amount of fun included in the AA fellowship. Some people might be shocked at our seeming worldliness and levity, but just underneath there lies a deadly earnestness and a full realization that we must put first things first. And with each of us, the first thing is the solution to our alcoholic problem. To drink is to die. Faith must work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. In order to set our tone for this meeting, I ask that we bow our heads in a few moments of silence and prayer and meditation, followed by the Serenity Prayer. Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not mine, be done. I wish to remind you that whatever is said at this meeting expresses our own individual opinion as of today and as of up to this moment. We do not speak for AA as a whole, and you are free to agree or disagree as you see fit. In fact, it is suggested that you pay no attention to anything which might not be reconciled with what is in the AA Big Book. If you don't have a big book, it is time that you bought one. Read it, study it, live with it, follow the directions in it, and learn what it means to be an AA. End of preamble. A sponsor is anyone who has had a psychic change as a result of working the steps and has the willingness to work with others. For those who are looking for a sponsor to guide them through the steps, please stay tuned and have your pens ready to record phone numbers immediately after the meeting. Each Al-Anon group ought to be a spiritual entity having but one primary purpose, that of carrying the message to the Al-Anon who still suffers. This is our primary spiritual aim. Our job as a group is to provide people with a place to learn about and work the steps. It has been our experience that working the steps consistently provides us with a better, saner life. We consider all else to be an outside issue. This includes personal problems. The proper venue for sharing such problems is with a sponsor. This is, after all, where real recovery takes place in working the steps with a sponsor. We are just so glad that we are all here, and we are all here because we are not all there. There will be a period of fellowship after the meeting. If you have questions, if you need a sponsor, if you need to check in or get current, or if you want to discuss other literature, please stick around for fellowship. That would be a better time for these subjects. Okay. So in the last 4 weeks, we've gone through step 1 through 12, and I am going to share my story on my journey through the steps. So my Al-Anon lifestyle started as a kid, and my dad was an active alcoholic, and honestly, at that age, I really didn't know what it meant. I just know that he liked to drink, and he was always really happy when he drank. And I think my part started coming when we were always trying to get Daddy to be drunk, because when he wasn't drunk, he wasn't a nice person. And so we always tried to make sure that that there was beer in the house. And this was as a young kid. Mom, did you buy some beer? Mom, did you buy some beer? And my dad drank Ham's beer. And like I said, when he was drinking, he was a very happy person and fun to be around. And I have a lot of good memories on that. And then so it was like that's when my behavior started out of Al-Anon. Going on later on in life, at the age of 17, I got pregnant, and I married my husband. And again, not knowing, I mean, I knew what alcoholism was, but when somebody overdrank, I mean, that was just part of everyday life for me, and it wasn't just like, it wasn't something that was abnormal for me, so because I was around it all the time. And an alcoholic, I never knew what that term was, and I always thought that they could quit. If they wanted to quit, they could quit. And when I got married and I had my first child, and my ex-husband now was an alcoholic, and he drank a lot. And just the opposite of my father, my ex-husband was not a nice person. And he was nice when he wasn't drunk, and he was not nice when he was drunk. So that's where I think my obsession started, because I did want him to drink. And obsession with controlling, I guess, because with my dad, there was an obsession there with getting him to drink. But this is when my controlling behavior started. And I used to threaten him that I was going to leave him if he didn't quit drinking. And after so long in that relationship, I became so obsessed with him not drinking. And he did quit, just to start again. So, but after he started again, I wasn't around. But he did end up quitting. And I was obsessed at the fact that he had to stay sober. He didn't go into any program. Again, I didn't know of any program. And every time, because he would drink and then he would stop, and then he would drink and then he would stop, and then he'd drink and stop, and then finally he just stopped altogether. And that was towards the end of our marriage. But my obsession with trying to keep the drink away from him took me over. It was something that I felt like was my job to do. And I was doing good while I was doing that. If he started drinking, I wasn't doing good. I wasn't controlling it enough. I needed to do more because I felt like it was my fault that he was drinking. Of course, he always told me it was, which is one of the things that they do. But I was obsessed with the fact that he was drinking. And when he didn't drink, my obsession was keeping him that way. And when I say obsessed, I mean my job as the person in that household, I felt like fighting with him and keeping him in line per se was what I had to do. And it wasn't an option for me. I had to do that. It was something that I did on a daily basis. And when you're at that time, you don't really think. Again, I didn't know what alcoholism was. I mean, I used to say you're an alcoholic, but I didn't know the full extent of what an alcoholic was. But I was controlling. I was very controlling. It was something that was very important to me and my family, was to keeping him in line and keeping him from drinking. And whenever he did drink, it infuriated me because he wasn't doing what was good for all of us. He wasn't doing what was good for me. And so I didn't consider him to be sick. I didn't consider him to be somebody with an illness. I considered it a weakness because he just couldn't control what he was doing. And so whenever he would drink, I would get so upset at him, and I just wouldn't talk to him. I would just, turn my back on him and all of this stuff. And so as this progressively got on, this marriage deteriorated, and I filed for a divorce. And but this carried on even though I was single. I was single for about 5 years. And even though I was single, I still had that behavior. I still had that mentality that if everybody would do it the way that I thought was right, life would be so much easier, right? Because I knew better than everybody else, right? So I continued that behavior with my kids, and I ended up having 5 children with that, with my first husband. I had 4 girls and 1 boy, and the love of my life. But they dealt with some of my Al-Anon behavior. If they would go to school, if they would get good grades, and it was something, you need to go to school, you need to do this, you need to do that. If you do it this way, it'll be better. If you don't do it that way, it's not going to be good. Because, I knew everything. So, and it was something that, that's something I used to tell my kids. I've lived it, so I know what's best for you guys. You guys just need to listen to me. And so that was something that carried on, and it carried on into my work life. And I remember when people wouldn't do things my way, it just infuriated me. Of course, I didn't act out at work because that's a work environment, but inside, man, it just like, it was something that, if you guys would just do it my way. And I always wanted everybody to hear what I was saying and listen to what I was saying, because I knew what was best. I knew what was best. And so later on in life, I ended up getting married again, and he was an active alcoholic too. And but it was, I don't know how to say it, but at the first I didn't want him to quit drinking. I just felt like that's just what he was, and I was accepting of it, and then problems started. And we started fighting all the time. And again, if you would just quit drinking, then this wouldn't happen. We wouldn't be fighting like this. Our life would be perfect. Our marriage would be perfect. And at this time, my kids were all grown and out of the household, and they were living their own lives. And I actually relocated to another state, and it just felt like I needed a new start because nobody was listening to me. So it's just like I needed a new start. And so I came here and where I'm currently living, and married my current husband, and active alcoholic. And again, I looked at him after the problem started. I'm just like, if you would just quit drinking, none of this would be happening. And why won't you quit drinking? And I blamed him for a lot of things. And my life had just become so chaotic. And I couldn't focus on anything else. I didn't have any friendships outside of the house. I was embarrassed when he was talking on the phone while he was drunk, and I would walk out of the room, and I just remember just being mortified and walking out of the room and just locking myself in a room, and to where I didn't have to hear him and stuff like that. And again, I looked at it as a weakness. You're weak because you can't quit drinking. You're weak. After a while, I did start going online and investigating on alcoholism. And I started reading it, and I'm like, no, this is not right. They can quit anytime they want to. And it's funny because my husband said it's all about a frame of mind if you want to quit drinking. And in essence, it is. But you have to get to that point to where that frame of mind is a healthy one, And at the time, I wasn't. I just wanted to control him. And then I would just shut him out. And then I would just stay silent. And then I would just ignore it. And then I would just, and my life started getting chaotic. My life was going out. I didn't have any friendships outside of my house. And I just kind of just kept to myself. And at work, I just did my work. And my work is so busy that I didn't think about it. So that was like my safe place right there. And then I'd come home and he'd be drunk, and and again, if he would just listen to me, everything would be all right. Well, then I started investigating online, and I started to really look at what this was about. And I wasn't looking at my perspective. I was looking at his, and I wanted to know what it was. And so I started reading about alcoholics. And then somebody had mentioned the story of the families in the AA book. And so I read the part on the families in our AA Big Book, and I couldn't grasp that they were ill, and that we had to consider it an illness, a grave illness. And I couldn't grasp that because I just felt like they're the ones that are putting that alcohol in their body, right? So I struggled with that. And then I joined this group on media, it was Facebook or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but I joined a group and in there, and it was for Al-Anon. I was like, Al-Anon, what is that? And I had listened to what they were saying. I knew what Al-Anon was, but I just didn't know what I thought it was, like, to help him get cured. That's what I thought it was. So I ordered some books and I started reading them and then I went on to that group and I was just like, I remember one night I was working on my computer and I was just so desperate and I was just like, I don't know what's going on. Everything is just chaotic. I don't know where to go from here. So I went on that group and I posted, I think my next step is to get a sponsor. And yeah, they had talked about sponsors in that group a lot, and I wasn't really interested then. But then at that moment in time, I was just at that point. And somebody came on and messaged me and said, I can help you. And so I gained a relationship with her. And she said, okay, she shared her story with me, which was very similar to mine. Actually, I'm in two programs, and I started with her in the first program. She recognized that I was Al-Anon through our interaction with the first program, and she walked me through that because she was a dual sponsor. And so that's how it all started, is I reached out for my one issue, and then, or not one issue, but my one program, and then I went into Al-Anon after she suggested, and I thought, that's a good idea. And so she talked to me and she told me about her story. And she says, we're going to get through these steps. And I was like, okay. And again, I had experience with step meetings because, but this was a different ballgame. This was different. This was a different mindset, different perspective. And so she became my dual sponsor. And I still have her to this day. And it has actually been it's been over 3 years, over 3 years now. So, she has been my sponsor through everything, and I'm glad that she went through it with me and still stays with me. So I want to go through the steps, and when I was from an Al-Anon perspective of what I went through, this is my personal journey. So I'm going to be reading the steps. And step 1 says, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. This wasn't a hard one for me because I was there. I had that perspective. My life was so chaotic. My insides, and when I say my insides, my soul was so chaotic, and my mind was, it was really broken when it came to alcoholics and my active alcoholic living in my life, and I was just so ready just to give up on everything, and that includes everything that. My life, I didn't have a life. Everything was about all of that, and I just wanted some peace. And so getting to the point on step 1 where it says we admitted we were powerless over our alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable, I was there. Okay, I'm good on that one. I'm there. I know that my life is unmanageable. And so I accepted that. And that was one of the easiest steps that I went through because I was already there. Then we went to 2, and she said, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I was always a Christian. I had my own, spirituality, but I was a Christian, and I did believe in a power higher than myself. And but how could he restore me? It's the alcoholic's fault. How could, maybe if he restored him, then my life would be good, right? So I did have a little bit of struggling with that. Restore us to sanity. So he's talking about me. He's not talking about my active alcoholilism. He's talking about me, restore me to sanity. But in my eyes, my issue was that he was drinking. That was my issue. My issue was that he wouldn't stop drinking. That was my issue. And so this one, it took a little bit, but we talked about it. And I came to the resolution that nothing I was doing was helping. And as a matter of fact, it was just making things worse. So I did come to that realization that I know that my God, as I understood him, could restore me to sanity. And then we went to step 3. And step 3, it says, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Yes, I like I said, I've been what I considered a strong Christian, and I could leave it in his hands and I could take it all off. But this number 3 was a lot more powerful than when I read it. When you have that sponsor leading you through it. We read a bunch of passages in the book, and it was like, oh my goodness, the realization that I didn't have to do it anymore, that I could turn it over to God. I could just take all of this anguish, all of this controlling behavior, all of this selfish behavior, and turn it over to him and let him handle it. Well, there's a concept, right? Well, okay, so he can handle it. And I had a huge sigh of relief when we were going through that step. I was like, okay, so I don't need to do this anymore. I'm only in control of me. This is me. I don't have to be in control of anybody else. I need to take that control out and give it to God. I take it. When I say I'm in control of me, God is in control of me. At this point, I was just saying I can control me and give it to God. I could take all of that, my husband, my ex-husband's behavior, my children. I can turn all of that over to God. I don't have to take care of it anymore. So it's up to him. It was a huge sigh of relief, and then it was a scary thing, because up until then, I had depended on myself. I had depended on my way of thinking, and which was clearly broken, right? I had to depend on me, and now I was giving it to God, and that was a very, very humbling experience for me. That brought me to tears, and my sponsor cried with me. It was an amazing moment. Then we had to go on to the next step after going through that. And 4 says, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Okay? Up until this point, we blamed everybody else for all the problems, right? So now we were going to make a personal inventory of us. It had nothing to do with anybody else. It had to do with us and our part in everything. So that was a huge, like, what? What are you talking about? Our problems is because of them. It wasn't us. I mean, we were just trying to help, right? So it was something, okay. So she guided me through it, and she told me that we're going to make a list, and we're going to put a list of our resentment, and then we were going to make a list of our fears, and then we were going to make a list of to review our own sex conduct. And so the resentments was easy. I had a lot of resentments. Those were easy. I just started listing those and listing all of them, and then she wanted me to write down the cause for them, right? Well, the cause was them, right? If it wasn't me, yeah, I probably could have handled it better, but it was because of them. So I would write what I was resentful at, and then I would write the cause, and that, and this is something that you're not doing with your sponsor at this time. You're listing them by yourself. And I'm listing my resentments, and I'm listing the cause, and then I have to go through my character defects and find out what my character defects were and how it affected me, right? And so I started listing those. And I didn't check off everything, just a few things because, still in my mind, this was their fault, not mine. And then I would do the same thing when it came to my fears. I'm fearful at, yeah, there was a lot of fears that I had. And why do I have that fear? Well, because of them. Again. And then my review of my own sex conduct. Who did I harm? What did I do? And so I had to go through all of that and list all of my stuff. And then when it came time to meet with her again, I told her, she'd go, okay, let's pick the top whatever. And so we would pick the top whatever, and I started going through them. And she goes, what was the cause? Well, it was them. They caused this. It was their drinking, or it was their behavior, or it was their actions, or whatever. And she slowly talked me into taking responsibility for me. And I was like, wait. This is all coming back on me when it was their fault. Well, no, it wasn't their fault. It was me. It was all me. And my part in it, and how I reacted, and was I helpful? What did I do to cause that harm? And boy, was that something that made you realize what your part in all of those things, and you think about all the people that you have hurt in your past. And I was in my 40s when I was in my 50s when I came to this program, and I'm telling you that 50 years of that constant behavior is was hard to admit. It was hard to admit, but I did cause harm, and it wasn't my intention, And nobody wants to hurt somebody, but when you get into that state of mind where you're controlling and you're thinking that your way is the only way, and you're in essence playing God in your relationships and trying to get them to see it your way, you hurt a lot of people when you do that. So that was an eye-opener as we were going through those. And I ended up checking all of those spaces on my character defects because it affected all of that. And so on everything, on the fears, resentments, and the sexual conduct, it was me. I had to take responsibility of me. And I wasn't looking at another person because I'm not responsible for anybody else. I'm responsible for me. And having God on my side at that time, when my relationship with God was starting to build at that point too. I thought I had a relationship with him before this program. It's nothing compared to what it is today. So then the next step is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Now, as I was going through this with my sponsor, that's what I was doing. Is I was admitting to God and to myself and to her what the exact nature of my wrongs were. It took her a while to talk me into, getting from that one perspective where it was their fault to the correct response, which is it was my fault. I needed to take responsibility for my behavior. So then we did that part, and I admitted to God and to my sponsor my wrongs, and I took responsibility for them. I admitted it to myself for them. Then we went on to step 6, where it says, we're entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. Whew. Have you ever, confessed something, that's basically what you're doing is okay, so I've just gone through this with my sponsor. I admitted to God, to myself, all of these wrongs, everything that I've done wrong. And this was at the point where my brain started swirling, because this was me. This was me, my life. This was my wrongs, my resentments, my fears. This was me, and I wasn't looking at this point. I wasn't looking at the other person because in essence, we can't control anybody but ourselves, and through God, of course. And so we were entirely ready to have God remove all of that. So you have all of these sins. It's almost like you go and confess your sins to somebody, and that's what you're doing here. You're just taking all of those and you're confessing them, and He's removing all of them. And what a huge boulder that is. You're carrying around that boulder that you're helping and you're so controlling at that time, and then just to release all of that, it was so humbling. It was such a humbling experience, and I cannot even describe it in words. It was something that I will never forget, and I never want to go back to that point again. So I was entirely ready for Him to remove all of those defects of character. And then on 7, I humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. And this is prayer and meditation. You are releasing all of that to Him. You are reflecting on step 4, and you are reflecting on yourself, and you're not thinking about other people's problems anymore. You're thinking about you and your relationship with God and being in this meeting. And it was so humbling, and I just can't describe it in words how it was. So I humbly asked Him to remove my shortcomings. Well, then we went on to step 8, and this says that we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So we were to make a list of who we had harmed, and we were going to make amends with them. And so I had to choose, a couple at first, and then go through the rest of them with my sponsor. And I wrote out my amends, and I went to everybody that I possibly could. Unfortunately, there were some that had already passed on, but I went to everybody that I possibly could, and I made amends. Some of them were so sick at the time that it was difficult, but it was something that I needed to do. It wasn't about their illness. It was about my recovery, and it's something that I needed to do. And when you're in this one too, this comes to a point to where, forgiveness is very important. And I'm not talking about just their side. I'm talking about your side too. Forgiveness is very important to let it go. And so I made a list of all the people that I harmed and became willing to make amends. And then I made the amends, which is step 9. I made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or them others. This was really hard. This was really hard for an Al-Anon person to go up and say sorry, because all this time we're coming to the realization that it was us. But it's hard for an Al-Anon person to, when they're in that perspective, and to go up and say sorry. And I have to tell you that the hardest one for me to do, but such a relief to do, was my ex-husband. I had to make amends to my ex-husband, and he is still actively an alcoholic, and I went in front of him and I did it, and I thought of nothing more than, here is a sick man in front of me. I have never thought that way, guys. Never thought that way, ever. And it was amazing to look at him in that perspective instead of having that anger. So when things would come out of his mouth during my amends, it was from somebody who's seriously ill. He's seriously ill. Instead of having anger, you have sympathy. You have heart, and just you know that person's really ill and needs help, not from you, because we're not going to go there again. So it was so that we could heal, and it did. It was a very, very healing experience for me to do all of that. It took me a while. It took me a while to get through my list because, like I said, there was like 50 some odd years of people that I've harmed. I went through my children, went through my current husband, my ex-husband, and my mom and dad, and I just had to really just go through all of that. And oh man, was that exhausting. That was so exhausting, but so worth it. So worth it every minute, because your heart is going to be in a different place after all of that. Your heart is going to be with God and your program and your life, and your life is going to be completely different. So then I went on to step 10, 11, and 12. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So these are things that I do on a daily basis. I do on a daily basis my step 10. How did I affect others? Was I resentful? Was I, was I thinking about myself? Was I thinking about, was I emotional about anything? I had to go through all of those character defects to think about all of that. So was I being selfish? Was I frightened of something? Was I dishonest? Was I self-seeking? So this is, in essence, what we're doing every day is we're keeping that slate clean. We've already cleared out that 50 some odd years, right? Now we're keeping things clean. And then 11 is thought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. So this is the meditation part of it, and this is, constant. That's that constant relationship with God. So we are conscious of everything. We're taking it to Him right away, right? And praying for the knowledge. And as you go through this on a daily basis, you're constantly learning things. You're constantly learning. And when you take it to Him and have Him guide you, your higher power guide you, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. You're going, if you stay in that constant how do you say it, mind frame that God is guiding you, you're not guiding you. It becomes a different perspective. And then we come to step 12. Having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So this is for me the most rewarding part. I have shared my story I don't know how many times, and my motto in my program is that I never say no. So unless it is something that I absolutely can't do, or if something's going on. So if somebody comes up and asks me to do something, if I would be willing to do service, I never say no. I say yes, I will. And it's pretty scary sometimes, like doing meetings and sharing your story and stuff, but so rewarding and keeps you right there. I have a sponsor. I sponsor people, and and it's so rewarding to me. And I help people. I don't just help people with that are part of Al-Anon or part of my other program. I help people. Period. If there's something that I can do to help somebody, then I'm going to do it, because that's my program. And I'm trying to carry this message over as well. So I'm part of a group on social media where I help, and I'm an admin is what they call me, and I help with that. I help in Al-Anon and in my other program, and it's something that I need to do, and it's something that I cannot stop doing. Because when you stop doing this stuff, you're just going to get back into that frame of mind. You need to stay in this program. This needs to be a daily thing. This needs to be a lifestyle. you know. And so that's something that I do. And again, I don't say no unless there's some conflict in there. Then I do not say no. I help on the dash on a meeting. I'm doing this right here. And I sponsor somebody and I do outreach. And this is something that I do on a daily basis. Not one day goes by that I'm not doing what these steps tell me to do. Not one day goes by that I'm not living the program. And this is my priority. This program is my priority. Why? Because I don't want to go back to the way I used to be. And this book promises us a solution as long as we are willing to do the work. And doing that work means doing service and helping others. And so that's my life. That's my life now. And I'll never go back to anything else. So that's my story. Now, let's go into the closing of this meeting. So, seventh tradition, every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. This group does not have a payment structure in place and currently requires no overhead expenses. If you would like to fulfill Tradition 7, please direct contributions directly to the Al-Anon World Service Office by visiting alanon.org. For questions about this meeting, or if you are looking for a sponsor, please send emails to alanonbigbookrecovery@gmail.com. Recordings can be accessed on YouTube by searching @Al-Anon Step Speaker in the YouTube search box. If you are interested in other Al-Anon meetings that follow the Big Book, please visit www.alanonbigbooksolutiongroup.org. A reading from Big Book, page 164. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But you obviously cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and for countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Now let's have a moment of silence for the Al-Anon who still suffers, followed by the Lord's Prayer or a prayer of your own choosing said in silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.